Greetings, respected viewers. So I'm standing in front of the grave of Nikita Khrushchev. There you can see him, born 1904, died 1971, and he was one of the most significant figures in Soviet history, ruling the country effectively from 1956 till 1964 when he was pushed out. So he was an ethnic Russian, and he rose to prominence in the Red Army during the Civil War. It's odd to think that during his lifetime he was the most puissant person on earth, more powerful than President Kennedy, because let's not forget that the General Secretary of the Soviet Union's powers were more or less unlimited, whatever the law said. So he'd trained as a gas fitter, been to a technical college, and those were rough and ready times when a lot of the intelligentsia had fled, so people without higher education could easily rise to prominence. So he's a fantastic orator, and he knew what Marxist dogma to spout, and he was heavily involved in purges in the Ukraine and elsewhere. In the 1930s, in the Second World War, came to Stalin's notice, promoted the Politburo shortly afterwards, and then on the death of Stalin in 1953, he was able to maneuver his way into pole position, becoming General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and that was the paramount position, not head of state, that there was someone else who was head of state. So a bit of jostling for position after the death of Stalin, as there had been after the death of Lenin. But by about 1956, it was clear that Khrushchev was the supremo, and his rivals, well, Lavrenti Beria had been executed 9 months after the death of Stalin, and that was that. And so Khrushchev's doctrine was peaceful coexistence with Occidental countries. There was a limit to that. He wouldn't allow a reformist communist government in Hungary, for example, as he proved in November 1956. He wouldn't allow the French, British and Israelis to defeat his ally, Egypt, in 1956. Well, not too badly. The British couldn't hang on to the Suez Canal. So that was it. But then 1962 came the Cuban Missile Crisis. Some people feel he fumbled his hand then. Was he too feeble? But as he said, common sense won, human reason won, and so a Third World War was avoided. Anyway, 1964, there was effectively a putsch, a legal one I suppose, telling up to the Politburo, and the others had decided that he was resigning right there and then. But these were more humane times. He was given comfortable retirement and told so long as he kept his nose clean, he would live well. So to be no machinations from him. He wrote an autobiography called Khrushchev Remembers, which was smuggled out and published in Occidental countries. He died in 1971. He's interred here at Novodevichy Cemetery, meaning New Virgin Cemetery, because there's a convent over the wall. So that had been a fortress from medieval times, because we're at a meander in the river. It's got the river on three sides. There's an ideal place for it. And then it became turned into a convent, and then this graveyard was buried here. So anyone who was anyone in the Soviet Union, or indeed late Imperial Russia, was buried here. The only place which with more prominence to be interred was the Kremlin Wall necropolis. Now, Khrushchev did not die en poste, which is why he was not laid to rest at the Kremlin Wall necropolis. Yeltsin was laid to rest here. But those who died in office, such as Lenin, Stalin, and the others, Brezhnev, they were all interred at the Kremlin Wall necropolis, which I filmed. So there were an awful lot of Chinese tourists looking at that grave, going on tours. Anyway, so they're heroes of the Soviet Union, they're various people's artists of the Soviet Union, heroes of Soviet labor, and they're just too many to name, who also find their last resting place here at Novodevichy Cemetery.